The rain was merciless that night. Not the kind of gentle rain that makes you want to curl up with a book and a warm drink. This was the kind that felt angry, that pounded against windows and turned streets into rivers. Most people were already home, safe and dry. But not everyone had that luxury. In a dark alley behind an abandoned building, something was dying. Slowly, quietly, without anyone knowing or caring. A tiny kitten lay there, its body so cold it had stopped shivering. That's when you know hypothermia has really set in. When the body gives up even trying to warm itself. When survival becomes a coin toss. The little thing's eyes were barely open, just thin slits that seemed to be fading with each passing second. Around it, pressed close but equally helpless, were 3 other kittens and their mother. All of them soaked to the bone. All of them fighting a battle they were losing. The mother cat was doing everything she could. Her body curled around her babies, trying to shield them from the storm that showed no mercy. But she was exhausted, starving, desperate. Her eyes held a sadness that only a mother watching her children slip away could understand. Have you ever felt completely powerless? Like no matter what you do, it won't be enough? That's where she was. That's where they all were. But then, something changed. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Getting closer. A man appeared at the mouth of the alley. He wasn't on duty. Wasn't in uniform. Just a cop heading home after a long shift, wanting nothing more than to get out of this miserable weather. But something made him stop. Maybe it was a sound. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was meant to be. He peered into the darkness and his heart stopped. At first, he wasn't even sure what he was looking at. Just shapes in the shadows, barely visible in the dim light from a distant street lamp. But then he saw them. The mother cat's eyes reflecting what little light there was. And those tiny, helpless bodies huddled together. He stepped closer, the rain instantly soaking through his jacket. And that's when he really saw it. The smallest kitten, lying there so still it looked like it might already be gone. Its tiny chest barely moving. Its fur plastered to its fragile body, making it look even more impossibly small. The man had seen a lot in his years on the force. Crime scenes. Accidents. Things that would haunt most people's dreams. But this hit different. This was pure innocence suffering for no reason except human cruelty. Someone had thrown these cats away like garbage. Left them to die in a storm. He knelt down, not caring about the puddles soaking through his jeans. His hands were shaking slightly as he reached out. The mother cat watched him with wide, fearful eyes. She was too weak to run, too desperate to fight. She just watched, waiting to see if this human would be like all the others. His fingers touched the smallest kitten and his breath caught. It was like touching ice. No living thing should feel that cold. He lifted it carefully, cradling it against his chest, and felt the faintest flutter of a heartbeat. Barely there, but there. The kitten's eyes opened just a fraction, looking up at him with a gaze that seemed to ask a simple question. Are you going to save me, or are you just another person walking away? In that moment, everything became crystal clear. He couldn't walk away. Couldn't pretend he hadn't seen this. Couldn't live with himself knowing he left them to die when he had the power to do something about it. But here's the thing about doing the right thing. It's rarely simple. It's rarely convenient. And it often asks more of you than you plan to give. He looked at the other 3 kittens, all in desperate need of help. He looked at the mother, who was watching him with an expression that broke his heart. He couldn't just take one. He couldn't choose who lived and who died. That wasn't a choice anyone should have to make. So he didn't. He took off his jacket, ignoring the rain that immediately drenched his shirt. Carefully, moving with a gentleness that contradicted his rough appearance, he started gathering the kittens. Each one was soaked. Each one was cold. Each one was clinging to life by a thread. The mother cat stood up on shaky legs. For a moment he thought she might run. Might disappear into the night, thinking he was stealing her babies. But she didn't. Instead, she took a hesitant step toward him. Then another. And then she did something that made his eyes burn with emotion. She rubbed against his leg, a gesture of trust from an animal that had every reason not to trust humans ever again. "It's okay," he whispered, his voice rough. "I've got them. I've got you." Getting to his truck was a blur. Rain pounding down, wind howling, the kittens bundled in his jacket against his chest, the mother cat following close behind like a shadow. He opened the passenger door and gently placed the bundle on the seat. The mother immediately jumped up, positioning herself around her babies, checking each one with frantic licks. But that smallest kitten, that one wasn't responding, wasn't moving, just lying there with its eyes closed, its breathing so shallow it was almost invisible. He started the engine and drove faster than he probably should have, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Every red light felt like an eternity. Every second mattered. He kept glancing over at that tiny bundle, silently begging it to hold on. Just hold on a little longer. The emergency vet clinic was the only place with lights still on. He burst through the door, soaking wet, holding a jacket full of half-dead kittens, probably looking like he'd lost his mind. The receptionist took one look at his face and didn't ask questions. She just called for the doctor. Dr. Sarah Martinez appeared within seconds, her experienced eyes immediately assessing the situation. She took the smallest kitten from his arms, and he saw her expression change. That's never a good sign. When a vet looks worried, you know things are bad. "How long has this one been like this?" she asked, already moving toward the examination room. "I don't know. I just found them. Please, you have to." "I'll do everything I can," she said, and disappeared through the door. And just like that, he was alone in the waiting room, dripping rainwater onto the linoleum floor. His heart pounding, his mind racing. The other 3 kittens and the mother were taken to another room for examination, but all he could think about was that smallest one. That little fighter who'd looked at him with those eyes that seemed to carry the weight of the world. Time moved strangely. Minutes felt like hours. He paced. Saturday. Paced again. His clothes dried slowly, leaving him feeling uncomfortable and cold, but he barely noticed. He just kept seeing that tiny body, so still, so cold. What if he'd been too late? What if finding them was just prolonging the inevitable? The door opened. Dr. Martinez walked out, and he searched her face desperately for some sign, some hint of what was coming. She looked tired, really tired, but there was something else in her expression too. "The little one is stable," she said softly, and he felt his knees nearly buckle with relief. It was close, really close. Another 10, maybe 15 minutes out there and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the kitten's body temperature is coming up. Slowly. We've got fluids running, warming techniques in place. The next few hours are critical, but right now, that baby is fighting. And fighting hard. He couldn't speak. Couldn't find the words. Just nodded, feeling an embarrassing wetness in his eyes that had nothing to do with the rain. "The others are in better shape," she continued. "Malnourished, dehydrated, but responsive. The mother cat is exhausted and underweight, but she's strong. They're all going to need care, medication, proper nutrition. It's going to be a commitment." She paused, studying him carefully. "Do you have a plan for them?" Did he? 10 minutes ago, he'd been heading home to his empty apartment, planning to heat up some leftover pizza and fall asleep watching TV. Now he was standing in a vet clinic, completely soaked, responsible for 5 lives he hadn't asked for but couldn't walk away from. "Yeah," he heard himself say. "I'm taking them home." Dr. Martinez smiled. Not a big smile. Just a small, knowing one. The smile of someone who'd seen this happen before. Seen people's hearts break open and let love pour in when they least expected it. "Then let's talk about what you'll need to do." The next hour was a crash course in kitten care. Feeding schedules. Medication. Warning signs. What to watch for. How to help the mother cat recover. Special instructions for the smallest one, who would need extra attention, extra care, extra everything. When he finally saw the tiny kitten again, bundled in a soft blanket with a heating pad, something inside him shifted permanently. The little thing's eyes were open now, really open, looking around with what seemed like confusion and wonder. Still weak. Still fragile. But alive. Fighting. He reached out and gently stroked its head with one finger. The kitten leaned into the touch, and he felt his heart crack open in the best possible way. "You're going to be okay," he whispered. I promise. Taking them home felt surreal. His truck, which usually carried nothing but work gear and empty coffee cups, was now a mobile nursery. The mother cat had relaxed considerably, seeming to understand that this human meant safety. The 3 stronger kittens were starting to move around more, even attempting tiny mews. But the smallest one, nestled in a special carrier with warming packs, still looked so delicate it scared him. His apartment had never felt so empty as it did when he walked in with his new family. It was clean, organized, practical. The home of someone who lived alone and liked it that way. Or at least, that's what he'd always told himself. He set up a space in his bedroom for them, following Dr. Martinez's instructions precisely. Soft blankets, food and water dishes, a litter box. The mother cat immediately settled into the makeshift nest, and her 3 stronger babies tumbled around her, already showing more energy. But the smallest one needed something more. Needed to be fed every couple of hours. Needed to be monitored constantly. Needed warmth and care and attention that didn't stop. That first night, he barely slept. Every hour, his alarm would go off, and he'd carefully feed the tiny kitten with a special syringe, watching to make sure it was swallowing, breathing, surviving. The kitten's eyes would open and look at him during these feedings, and he swore he could see gratitude there. Recognition. Connection. By the 3rd night, something was changing. The kitten was stronger. Not a lot, but noticeably. Its movements were more deliberate. Its mews were louder. That iron grip on life was getting stronger. He named the kitten Storm, because that's where they met. In the middle of chaos and darkness and rain. And because, like a storm, this tiny creature had completely upended his life in a matter of hours. The mother cat, he named Grace, because that's what she embodied. Grace under impossible pressure. Grace in trusting a stranger. Grace in never giving up on her babies. The other 3 got names too. Thunder, Rain, and Sky. A family born from a tempest, now safe from it forever. Days turned into weeks. His apartment, once quiet and orderly, became a circus of kitten chaos. They were everywhere. Climbing curtains. Knocking things over. Playing at 3 in the morning. Making messes. Demanding attention. And he loved every second of it. Storm remained the smallest, but that tiny body held a spirit that refused to quit. The kitten that had been too weak to move now zoomed around the apartment like a miniature rocket. The one that had nearly frozen to death now sought out the warmest spots, curling up on his chest whenever he sat down, purring so loudly it seemed impossible for something so small. His coworkers noticed the change in him. He smiled more. Seemed lighter somehow. When they asked why, he showed them pictures. Lots of pictures. He became that person, the one who couldn't stop talking about his cats, showing videos, sharing every cute thing they did. And he didn't care. Not one bit. Because here's what he'd learned. He thought he was saving them that night. Thought he was the hero of the story, rescuing helpless creatures from certain death. But the truth was more complicated. More beautiful. They saved him too. He hadn't realized how lonely he'd been. How much his life had become just going through the motions. Work, home, sleep, repeat. He'd built walls around himself, convinced himself he preferred solitude. But those walls came crashing down the moment Storm looked up at him with those trusting eyes. Now his apartment was full of life. Full of love. Full of purpose. He rushed home after shifts not to collapse in front of the TV, but to be greeted by 5 furry bodies who acted like he'd been gone for years instead of hours. Grace would meow at him as if filling him in on the day's events. The kittens would swarm his feet, climbing his legs, demanding attention and play. And Storm never left his side when he was home. Followed him from room to room. Slept on his pillow. Sat on his shoulder while he made dinner. That kitten who'd been so close to death now lived life at full volume, as if making up for those hours when existence hung by a thread. One evening, about 3 months after the rescue, he was sitting on his couch with Storm asleep on his chest, the other cats sprawled around him in various states of relaxation. Outside, it started to rain. Not a storm like that night. Just a gentle rain. But Storm's ears perked up at the sound, and the kitten burrowed closer to him, as if seeking reassurance. "It's okay, buddy," he murmured, stroking the soft fur. "You're safe now. Always." And in that moment, he understood something profound. Life isn't about the big dramatic moments. It's about the small choices. The decision to stop when you could keep walking. The choice to care when it would be easier not to. The commitment to love even when it's inconvenient. He thought about sharing the story online. Not for attention. Not for praise. But because maybe, just maybe, someone else would see it and be inspired to stop next time they saw an animal in need. To be the person who chooses compassion over convenience. So he did. He posted the story, along with photos from that first night and videos of Storm now, healthy and vibrant and full of life. The contrast was staggering. That nearly dead kitten trembling in the cold versus this energetic ball of fur that brought joy to every moment. The response was overwhelming. The video went viral. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. People sharing their own rescue stories. People saying they'd been inspired to adopt. People crying. People feeling hope. But the comment that hit him hardest was simple: you didn't just save their lives. You gave them a reason to trust again. Thank you for being the person they needed you to be. That's really what it comes down to, isn't it? Being the person someone needs. Whether that someone has 2 legs or 4. Whether they can speak or can only look at you with eyes that carry entire worlds of emotion. Today, if you walked into his apartment, you'd see a home transformed. Cat trees in the corners. Toys scattered everywhere. Food bowls lined up in the kitchen. Photos of 5 cats covering the fridge. The organized, sterile space of a man living alone replaced by the beautiful chaos of a family. Storm is still the smallest. Still his shadow. Still the one who curls up on his chest every night, purring so loudly it's like sleeping next to a tiny, furry motorcycle. And every time he feels that warm weight, every time he hears that rumbling purr, he remembers that night. The rain. The cold. The impossible choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Grace has blossomed into a confident, affectionate cat who clearly knows she's finally safe. She doesn't flinch when he moves suddenly anymore. Doesn't watch the door like she's expecting to be thrown out. She's home. She knows it. The other 3 have grown into distinct personalities. Thunder is brave and bold. Rain is gentle and sweet. Sky is curious and clever. Each one special. Each one a reminder that every life has value, has potential, has a story waiting to be written. People ask him sometimes if he regrets it. If having 5 cats is too much. If he wishes he just kept walking that night. And he looks at them like they've asked the most absurd question in the world. Regret? How could he possibly regret the best decision he's ever made? Yes, his life changed. Yes, he has responsibilities he didn't have before. Yes, there are vet bills and litter boxes and early morning feedings. But he also has love. Pure, unconditional, unfiltered love. He has purpose. He has family. He has 5 creatures who think he hung the moon and stars just because he chose to care. That's not something to regret. That's something to celebrate. And here's the thing. There are millions of animals out there right now. In shelters. On streets. In abandoned buildings. Waiting for someone to see them. To stop. To care. They're not asking for much. Just a chance. Just someone willing to look past the inconvenience and see the potential for love. Maybe it won't be 5 cats. Maybe it'll be 1 dog. 1 rabbit. 1 bird. The number doesn't matter. What matters is the choice. The decision to be someone's hero, even if you don't feel like a hero. Even if you're just a tired cop heading home from work who happened to hear a sound in the rain. Because that's all it takes. A moment. A choice. A heart willing to break open and let love in, even when it's messy and complicated and completely unplanned. Storm is sleeping peacefully on his chest as these thoughts run through his mind. Outside, the world goes on. But inside this apartment, there's warmth. There's safety. There's a family that exists because one person decided that 5 lives mattered more than convenience. And if this story reaches just one person who makes that same choice, who stops for that animal in need, who opens their heart and their home, then sharing it was worth it. Because that's how change happens. One rescue. One adoption. One choice at a time. The storm ended long ago. But the love it brought? That will last forever.